Hey friend, this is episode number 517 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so.
Hello, welcome to this episode. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here. So I totally forgot last week because I was so excited to talk about AI that I didn't share the books. And I feel like that life update, I wanted to celebrate it because I had so many books to tell you about. And then AI got the best of me. So that is what we're going to start out with today so that I don't forget to tell you, because that's a kind of a big milestone because I read through a bunch of books. So let us begin with what I read. So I absolutely love, I don't know if you have been a listener for very long or not, but I am a murder mystery, PI, FBI, CIA. I love those kind of plot lines. And I absolutely adore the Lee Child Reacher series. Like, I love me some Reacher. And when I am not feeling like searching for a book, an audiobook specifically, I'm like, okay, I know another Reacher book is available and I'll go download it. So another series I do that with is the Sue Grafton Alphabet series with Kinsey Millhone, and I absolutely love that series. And I do the same thing when I'm like, oh, I don't really know what I want to read. I don't want to sit in my Libby app and try and figure all of this out. So I'll just go pick another one of their books. So I read Ellis for Lawless. I read 61 Hours, which is Lee Child Reacher series. I read Bookish People by Susan Coyle. I gave that one a 3-star. I didn't feel super attached to the storyline. Like, it didn't hold my attention that much. I also read Wicked Appetite, and that's a Janet Ivanovich. I gave that a 3-star, and I love her writing, and I didn't really find that. So I won't be continuing that series at all. So that is what I was going to tell you about last week as books I've read. So now I'm going to tell you about even more books that I read. So I made it through Last Call at the Nightingale, which is what I was reading last week. And I gave that, what did I give that? I gave that a 3-star too. Decent story, but not enough to be like, oh, I wonder what happens next. I also finished Worth Dying For, Reacher series, 5-star. And I finished The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I gave that a 3-star. I am currently reading The Hitman and the Psychic and Just for the Summer. So those are the two that I'm currently reading just for the summer. I'm listening to. It's actually really good. And I love that it's 2 narrators, a female voice and a male voice. I love it. So that is the update for books that I really wanted to share last week, but now I got to share it with you this week. So let's talk about the garden. Oh my gosh, it is so coming along. My sunflowers are so blooming. And I think my dahlias that I planted from seed are going to be flowering, although somebody told me that I need to pinch them when they have 5 to 7 sets of true leaves in order to encourage them to branch. So I don't know if all of them are close to that much leaf foliage yet, but I'm going to go back out there tomorrow. We have a bunch of rain today, so it's not good for me to do that, but I got straw placed on my watermelon and cantaloupe and pumpkins and squash and what else? My zucchini and cucumbers. And my watermelon, actually, I planted all of that from seed, and oh my gosh, the seedlings have sprouted. And the cantaloupe seedlings have sprouted, so that's exciting. I also planted out yarrow, and I planted out my potato slips and some more flowers like bunny tails, which is actually a type of dried grass. Well, it'll be a grass and then you dry it. And forget-me-nots, and I think I planted out a couple of snapdragons. And I have 4 more trays of seedlings that have long past their prime in a seedling tray that are begging me to go out into the garden. And I am only one person, you guys. I'm only one person, and oh my gosh, I'm just like, hold on, please. I planted you from seed. With our house, we've had so much rain that we're still at a rain stall. So our piers are not in the ground yet, and our form boards haven't been fixed. But I did get to meet the pier truck guy. He was out on Sunday prepping his truck, and he was like, I'm just waiting on the rain. And I was like, well, also my form boards are off, so they need to fix them. So I'd imagine your piers are going to be different and in slightly different locations. And he was like, oh yeah, good to know. I will move my pier truck because it was sitting on my house pad. And I was like, okay, so we're just waiting on the rain to clear out long enough to not be so muddy, and then they can keep going. So last week I talked about my interaction with AI on building out my ideal reader. And I kind of pulled back the curtain and showed you how I personally workshopped that. I went out to some of my OG blog friends and asked them to listen to the episode and give me some feedback, because I wanted to see how best to help you figure out how to use AI for yourself. And I got some really great feedback from them, and so I am going to put a pause this particular week on how to best finish that out for you via the podcast. And then I also wanted to kind of share a little bit about what I'm working on that will help you. So I am working on a 5-day email challenge, and I mentioned this in a previous episode. I think it was episode 508, when I was like mind blown by ChatGPT. So I am still working on finishing like getting that set up from a like setup standpoint, logistics standpoint. I told you last week that I had switched over to Flowdesk, or that I was working on switching over to Flowdesk. And I do really like Flowdesk. They have a shopping cart, so you can you can build out a landing page or a sales page on your website if you wanted to, or you can use one of their templates that are a little bit more constrained, meaning there's not a ton of customization you can do specifically for those things. But all that to say, I'm working on the logistics of getting that 5-day email challenge put into that platform, so I have that available. But also, I am pulling my transcript, which, to be honest, has been interesting to go back and experience for myself, kind of one-to-one, and to also figure out the flow of my own brain between the different chats, because I was trying to keep things organized, but now that I am trying to find and follow my own brain flow, has been interesting. And so I am working on pulling that transcript and color coding it when I'm talking and then when the robot is talking. And then I was like, with some of the feedback that I received from my friends, I realized that it's more about the prompts that I was using, not necessarily the dialogue that the ChatGPT was giving me. So I'm going to have 2 versions of that. I'm going to have the full transcript, and then I'm going to have just my prompt list. And it's going to be in the flow that I actually prompted the system, so that it's not as wordy. Because right now, I don't know how many pages of transcript I have. I do want to make that available if somebody wants to completely nerd out. But then I was like, I think it's really more about the prompts. And if they want to go in and use the transcript to see how the robot responded, and then watch my own, like, oh, okay, no, I didn't like that. Do this instead. That will make more sense than just reading my prompts. So I'm working on building out a transcript of my personal experience and then building out my exact prompts. And also, I feel like some of the feedback that I received on last week's episode, it was a little confusing on my like starting point, which I think you do need to go back and listen to episode 508, because I was workshopping myself. I wasn't teaching a workshop. So I think that frame of reference was a little muddled for my friends who hadn't heard 508 and were just jumping right into that episode. So I was workshopping myself. I was not offering a workshop of ChatGPT during last week's episode 516. So just note that. So that is where we are with AI right now, and I'm going to put a pause on it for this week and dive back into it next week. And I'm hoping from a logistical standpoint that I have it all ready to go, and then you can access the 5-day email challenge if you want access to that to help you build out a freebie that speaks to your brand, that makes sense for your ideal customer. And yeah, so let's dive into my compounding social media interest stats. So I began tracking this on January 27th. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to start tracking Facebook. Anyways, so I began tracking my initial stats, which was YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And I am publishing the same piece of content, trying to find the same audio for each platform and publishing daily. So 7 short form pieces of content a week and 2 long form videos to YouTube every week. And then I resumed my blog, although I woke up this morning thinking, oh crap, I did not prepare the blog post I was supposed to write today, which won't take me very long once I get back in front of my laptop to do that. But all that to say, that is what I'm working on. Oh, and I resumed my newsletter with the House of Sugar Creek. And so I've sent out 2. They go out on Sunday nights. I've sent out 2. And that's been fun. And it's been fun to see people join my list since I've been saying I have this freebie library. I've had a few new subscribers, which is always exciting. And I've even heard from past blog readers, which is so mind-blowing that they are still around wanting to pay attention to me. That is so cool. Okay, so I started tracking YouTube on January 27th. On that day, I had 234 subscribers. To date, I have 432 subscribers, so I'm tracking right along. On TikTok, I started tracking at 139 followers. To date, I have 801 followers. And then for likes, I started tracking at 1386, and now I am at 9136. Then over on Instagram, I started tracking at 3,470 followers, and I am at 3,550 followers. So close to hitting a gain of 100 followers in 3.5 months, which is the hardest platform to find growth on right now. So here's a couple of notes on some things I noticed in the past week. I forgot to post a YouTube short one day, and then I continued to forget to post to my trial reels, which I was trying to post in the afternoon. And then I'm also deleting weird men, because that is what happens with trial reels for me personally. I am getting weird men following me, and the weird men are not my ideal customer, and so I am deleting them. So I have gained more than what I'm reporting because I'm deleting the weird men. And you should delete the weird men too. Okay, so this week's nugget centers around hiring woes, assistant woes. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have to have this conversation with myself and you for a really, really long time, except now I am having that conversation with you because I am down an assistant. And this time it is my choice. I believe this is really kind of the first human that I have had to part ways with due to behavior issues. And I'm really kind of in a weird spot with it personally. Like, I have never had to really deal with that. And I went into hiring thinking, okay, let me look at my own behavior in training, in educating, in shaping how I have this person handle my brand. I think it's very important whomever you bring onto your team understands your brand's voice, understands who your ideal customer is, understands who you're serving, how you're serving them, what makes you different, what your core values are. And I feel like for the most part, I did a really good job of those things with my previous assistants. And I would kind of course correct after having an assistant and being like, okay, what went wrong? Where can I do better? And how do I best set my brand up for success with another human? And I remember interviewing my most recent assistant, and she interviewed really well. She interviewed really well because I remember saying to her, I would want you in the trenches with me. Out of everybody that I've interviewed, I would want you in the trenches with me. I can now, without a shadow of a doubt, say I do not want her in the trenches with me. Having her in the trenches with me, and what that means is in an event day when we are setting up and getting everything set up for our client and making it look pretty and beautiful, and then like getting out in the time frames we have, and then getting back in at strike and getting it all packed back out and back into trucks and trailers. I would not want her in the trenches with me. And that was kind of heartbreaking. So the first experience I had with that, I was like, okay, maybe she's just trying to get a feel for how I do things, how I operate. And that is honestly what I chalked it up to. But it didn't improve. It continued to be the same behavior. And when you have only so much time to do the thing that you were hired to do, and you have even shorter time to do that same thing on the end of the event, you have to have like a jump start to your energy level, a pep in your step, a sense of urgency. And then also you have to have like, hey, we got to get this done. So let's get this done and like, be successful at it, and then go on our merry way, and then come back and do it again. And I wasn't seeing that. And so I felt like I was having to give a lot more direction when we were on site, even with my other team members around who were modeling the behavior that I wanted her to model. And that didn't really improve. And it kind of came to a head on Saturday. We had an event, and same behavior. Watch us do all the work and do as little as possible. And when I am out there moving furniture right alongside my team, like that's the expectation I have that you'd also do, like watch and do. And the other part of that is when I see you have a behavior I don't want you to have, like trying to walk that line of how do you correct the behavior in a professional manner that comes across well, gives positive reinforcement, to correct like all of that. There's a lot that goes into that. And last week, honestly, leading up to that were a lot of missteps. Like I have been so busy with roofing. If I could clone myself, it would be specifically for that company. I have been working almost every day until 11:30 at night. And I'm getting things accomplished, but it's still challenging. It's so freaking challenging. But all that to say, there was a lot of missteps last week. We were washing our goblets, and she started eating food while handling sanitized glassware. And I was like, hey, whoa, you got to maintain clean hands. You're handling sanitized glassware. And then I had to redo what she had done. And the behaviors the behaviors were not okay. And kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back was a misstep last week. I was informed via text message after hours that her second job scheduled her to work on my event day, an event day that had been in my calendar since the fall of last year, so fall 24. And she had been told about from like the beginning of her hiring and continued to be reminded about the entire length of time she worked for me. And I said, hey, that hasn't been communicated to me that you were not going to be able to help. I need 4 humans, myself and 3 others. And so I need you to find somebody to work for you because I expected you to work. I have been telling you about this event over and over and over and over and over. It's not like it came out of left field. It's not a last minute booking. And so I have that expectation that you are going to work it. And she told me she would find somebody to cover her shift. And then we get to Friday. We get to Friday at 2:45 p.m. She is on my dollar getting ready to go to her next job, like physically getting ready, and tells me she could not find somebody to cover her shift and can only help me on the front side of the event, cannot help me on the back side of the event. And my other assistant, my bookkeeper, who also helps me when I need extra hands, had gone into the hospital that day. And I was like, oh, crap. Because this human can't help me because she's in the hospital. And now you just told me you can't help me either. And I needed 4 people, me plus 3. And I was like, okay, I guess I will figure it out. Like, what are you supposed to do, So next day, we all show up, and then she tells me she's not riding with me to the event, which wouldn't have been a big deal to me had it been a public venue. It was a client's private ranch we were going to, so I really only had permission for me to arrive, not another car, and that wasn't cleared with me in the previous day saying, hey, I'm going to drive myself. So I cried myself all the way to our destination with my other 2 delivery team members in the back of my truck, in the back seat of my truck. And I was just like, I can't have somebody that puts Sugar Creek last. I need somebody that puts Sugar Creek first. Also, priority. You have a decent part-time job, Monday through Friday. It's very flexible on hours. You get to work up to 30 hours a week, however you want to work them. Very flexible in that way. So you put that into jeopardy by protecting a second job, by not protecting your day job. So I was upset, and I wasn't really sure how to handle my emotions as a business owner, but also emotions as of like, now that I start looking back, this person has been taking advantage of me this whole time, the entire time, molded a job into something she wanted to be instead of what it was. And it kind of just like blew up in my face as I'm driving to this event. And I'm like, well, crap. I tried to do things differently with this assistant, and it kind of bit me in the butt. I tried to correct behavior in a different manner than I normally do. I'm very direct, and I have a personality that's black and white. If you haven't been a longtime listener of the show and you know about Enneagrams, I'm a 1 who wings 9. So I don't really like confrontation, but when I need to step up on the soapbox and defend myself, I will. And I just see things very black and white. There's very little gray because I don't understand the gray area. And so it's either a yes or a no, or a I like that or I don't, or a don't do it that way, I need you to do it this way. Like, I'm very methodical in that way. And my expectations are clearly in writing. Every day, here is the task list. It doesn't need to be accomplished in any particular fashion as far as this is first, this is second. This is the expectation of the day. Here are the tasks. And that doesn't change from day to day unless we're mid-event or mid-prep for an event and other things pop in. That is the only time it changes. And I even at one point in that task list, so I use ClickUp, in that task list, I went in and created subtasks because I could see behaviors were not where I wanted them to be. So I created subtasks that would force a check mark to the subtask to overall complete the main task. Because I was like, this isn't what I told you to do. This isn't how I told you I wanted it done. Okay, let's correct. So some of that corrected, but then I started seeing way more computer time than work time. So overall work ethic and work product was not anywhere close to where it should be. So all that to say, yesterday morning, I was going to inform her that she no longer had a job, and I wanted to do that in person. I wanted to just say, because that's the other dance that's uncomfortable as a business owner, is when you have to let somebody go. And how do you do that without being in an attacking way? How do you gracefully let somebody go? So I noodled on that all night long. Like I kind of obsessed on it. Like, what words should I use? Please, Lord, help me figure this out. I need support. And I was just going to start in with, hey, I don't feel that you are in alignment with this job. And I'm seeing tasks go incomplete. I'm seeing tasks go partially complete. And overall, the work product is not meeting my expectation. That's ultimately what I was going to say to open the dialogue. But I got a text message instead informing me that she had to take herself to the urgent care clinic because she couldn't put weight on one of her legs. Her knee was bothering her. And I was like, okay, so when I look back at the behavior that I hoped would correct itself, Mondays were the day that she would come in late or not come in at all. And Mondays are the day where we reorganize the warehouse and clean. It is the biggest physical day of our week, besides loading furniture for an event. And I was like, she's going to try to skirt this. Also, it's the first Monday of the month, which means all of the furniture comes out of its hidey hole so all of the floors can get cleaned. And I was like, okay, this behavior continues. And I waited a couple of hours, and then I was like, I have no idea when she's coming in, and I need to let her know that she no longer works for me. And I cannot believe I'm going to have to send this in a text message. Because what? I had to send this in a text message, and then I had to grapple with the fact that I had to send it in a text message. And I sent it in a text message. And then I waited for an acknowledgement, for an anything. And my stomach stayed in knots. And I continued to wait and continued to wait. And I never heard from her. And now we're on a new day. And I even offered to pay her for this whole week to not work for me as a, I don't know, like as a, hey, I'm sorry that we're having to part ways. This isn't working for me, but here's a week's worth of pay, like an olive branch. And I didn't hear from her. So if I don't hear from her today, I'm not going to hear from her at all. And then I started having conversations with my assistant, my other assistant, my bookkeeper, and my husband. And I told my husband about having to let her go on Sunday. And he showed me some videos he had taken of her in the middle of my warehouse doing nothing, playing on her phone or playing on my laptop, after asking for her help, her semi-helping him, and then sitting right back down and picking up where she left off. And She found a spot in my warehouse with no cameras, so her behavior couldn't be observed in that manner. Not that I use my cameras for that, but I do check in when I am not present or I'm out of town. I do check in to see who's in my building, what they're doing, and, gates opening. I want to know who's going in, that kind of thing. Is it one of my RV clients, or is it a delivery, or, whatever. I don't really use it outside of the meant purposes of security, but she did find a place in my warehouse where I had no cameras. And then my assistant tells me about inappropriate behavior towards my husband. And then I asked my husband about it, and he was like, I wasn't really sure how to tell you. I just knew that I had to shut it down and leave immediately and not be present in the building ever again when she's here by herself. And that was a punch to the gut to learn, and it's recent happenings, that was even a thing. And I have lost all respect. And now I feel duped. I feel like, how long can I get away with this before she notices? Because I've been busy with roofing. And I don't have time to micromanage. I also don't want a human I have to micromanage. If my ClickUp daily tasks and to-dos is written out, those are my expectations. That's what you have to do. I don't know how to be any more clear than that. But now I am upset. And now I want to rip up the check and not give her an extra week of pay for no work because of that one behavior. That one inappropriate behavior that happened a couple of times. How is that okay? You haven't known my family long enough to have any kind of behavior like that. Like, even if you were related, Like, my other bookkeeper has been around my family for 20 years. Yeah, 20 years or more. And she does not act that way around my husband. So, if I hear from her today, this will be the day that I hear from her. I will not hear from her tomorrow. If I hear from her today, I don't know how to handle, like, do I just go ahead and keep the check as it is? I don't know how to handle that. So I guess I will give you that update next week. I'm in shock, really, in shock. So, fun times as a business owner in Taylor's world. Fun times as a business owner. The things people don't actively talk about. How to handle letting someone go. How to handle incorrect behavior. How to handle inappropriate behavior. Oh my gosh. As a small business owner. Man, I did not have that in my bingo card this year. Okay, friend. Thank you so much for listening. I will give you that update next week. But also I will, hopefully, all fingers and toes crossed, be able to say, hey, the 5-day email challenge is available for you for free to help you create your own freebie to help you grow your email list. So that is what I'm going to manifest for myself. And yeah, until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week. And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.